it's me, Norm MacDonald, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Baby. Mm. We have a fun and exciting podcast. We took last week off because peek behind the curtain. We record on Thursday nights. Last Thursday was Thanksgiving. I'm sure you had a lovely meal with all of your friends and family.
I had two of them.
I did nothing. So maybe I should have recorded something, but I didn't really want to. So I just kind of sat around and just chilled.
Recording podcasts is not in the holiday spirit.
No, it's not. Instead, I watched a Christmas movie. So
Perfect.
I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do on Thanksgiving, but I don't know any Thanksgiving movie. Do they make those?
I don't think they do.
Does Pocahontas count as a Thanksgiving movie?
I don't think so.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. Um, yeah, so we took last week off, so we'll have some stuff to talk about. I don't have a whole lot in terms of like news. Things have been pretty slow. Wicked came out and everybody's been ranting and raving about it. I know. And I've had multiple people ask me if I've seen it because I'm a movie guy. But the thing about Wicked is I can't bring myself to care about it at all. And I'm not someone that like hates musicals, but
I am.
well, okay, that makes sense for you not to want to see Wicked. I like musicals if they have like some fun and style to them, where it's like I like Little Shop of Horrors or that one episode of Always Sunny, I guess.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. um, I don't know. I just like to have some fun every now and then, and I think a good musical does it. So I'm fine with that. It's just like all of the footage I've seen of the movie, all of the trailers I've seen, it just seems so like sauceless, I guess, for lack of a better term. Where it's just like the color grading looks really muddy and bland. It has that like that modern take on color grading where I don't know if people like really pay attention to that, but like everything is so desaturated these days in like an attempt to make it look more real. And I'm like, what is the point of that? I don't want it to be real. It's a musical. Hell, it's based on a franchise that was the first in color film ever. And and it's just like the musical just seems so bland. And I was like, what are you doing? First of all, it's a musical. Second of all, it's Wizard of Oz. You should have some bright Technicolor ass color grading. And instead it looks like I don't know, like Riverdale or something. Or Euphoria. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be a good time. Also, I think that musical isn't it about racism? Isn't that what it's about? Kind of.
Partly, I think.
I think. I just remember when that lady was announced to be playing the evil witch, everybody was like, why wasn't she played by a black woman like this whole time? Because it's like that's kind of the point. Which is a good question, but I don't know. I have not seen Wicked, the stage production, or the film, and I probably won't see it for the foreseeable future. People are really going crazy about it though. Like it, I don't know. I don't know how good of a gauge this is. It has a really high letterboxed score, but we also have to take into account Ariana's fan base is ravenous. Not quite as bad as like the Taylor Swift or Beyonce fans, but it's leaning in that direction. So I have a feeling that's why the score is so high on Letterboxd. It's not your cinephile film bros doing that. Although it might be, I don't know. But I have a feeling that that's not that their type of movie. So I don't know. But that was the longest I've ever talked about a movie that I haven't seen. So I guess add that to the book, the big record book for the Boy Time podcast. Instead, let's talk about movies I did see. And these movies, frankly, they couldn't be more unlike each other. Because I watched a Christmas movie, Klaus, which I've already seen, but I rewatched it because I remembered it being very good. And so I said, let's rewatch it and see if it's still good. Spoiler alert, it is. But I paired that, and it pairs very nicely with Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve, a movie about kidnapping and torture and child trafficking. It's a rough one. It's very hard to watch at times. So yeah, it's very there's a contrast going on here, and I think we're gonna start with Prisoners because I think it would be nicer to end on Klaus, just as a nice little refresher. We're gonna delve deep into the dark corners of human society for a second here. And I'm also not going to really be talking about spoilers because uh, I think it's very much worth seeing. It's some people have said it's like Denis Villeneuve's best movie. I don't know. I'm a sci-fi nut, so like Arrivals is more my speed, but Prisoners is like near perfect in my opinion. Honestly, both of these movies are. So check out Klaus and Prisoners before we even get started. Um, Unless you don't want to be really sad, then maybe avoid Prisoners for now. But I think it's one that everyone should see eventually, if you can handle it. But yeah, Prisoners, it's kind of a dual narrative happening, where I guess the crux of the story is there are two families and they're neighbors and they're friends. And hold on just a second, they're over for Thanksgiving. It's a Thanksgiving movie. Solve the riddle. I guess they do make Thanksgiving movies, and it just so happens to be about a movie where two little girls get kidnapped, and it forces people to bring out the worst in each other. Anyways, so I did watch a Thanksgiving movie. I didn't watch it on Thanksgiving. I watched it before Thanksgiving. But yeah, so they're two families. They come over for Thanksgiving, and uh, basically, uh, one of the little okay. Let me back up a little bit because the family there's mom and dad in both, and then in the neighbor's family there's a older daughter and a younger daughter, and then in the main character's family there's a older brother and a younger daughter. And so basically, when they're over for Thanksgiving, the older kids are hanging out together, and then the younger kids are hanging out together. The younger kids decide that they want to go back to the other person's house to search for a whistle. And so then they do, but then they never come back. And hilarity ensues, as you can probably imagine. There's a little clue because all the kids went for a walk earlier, and the two young girls um they were like climbing on some RV, and that was just like parked in the street, and then the older kids were like, "Hey, get off of that." And then they walked away. So like once the kids disappear, they're like, "Oh, it's probably that weird RV that was just parked in the middle of the street that it doesn't belong to anybody that lives here." And now that they're gone, the RV is gone. So yeah, it was probably that. And then like 5 minutes later, the cops find the RV, and the RV is being driven by Paul Dano. So you know that he's the kidnapper because it's Paul Dano, of course. I don't think Paul Dano has ever played like a normal person. Actually, scratch that. He plays Steven Spielberg's dad in The Fablemans, and he's just a normal guy in that. which is the weirdest role for him, but I mean, it works. So Paul Dano is he's in this RV and it's parked on like a country road, and then the cops all pull up, and then he starts to run, or not run, but he drives this RV into the woods and then crashes into a tree, and they pull him over or whatever. That's the crux of the story. Paul Dano is very clearly the kidnapper because he's Paul Dano. And from this point on, we follow the main character, the dad of one of the young girls, played by Hugh Jackman. And we're also following the lead detective who is trying to crack the case, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. So, I mean, it's an all-star cast. All actors at like the peak of their game. Honestly, I don't know if I could say like Paul Dano's peak of his game because he's great in literally everything he's ever been in. I haven't seen all of the movies he's been in, but like Little Miss Sunshine, There Will Be Blood, The Batman, even The Fablemans, and now this. It's like he's been like he's been the standout in most of those, except for There Will Be Blood, because I mean, it's Daniel Day-Lewis, but you know, it's kind of a tit for tat in that movie. But he holds his own. And then Jake Gyllenhaal's great, and Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, so that's pretty sick. I love the Deadpool movie. Haven't seen it, but I just love the Bye 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 dance. Honestly, it's probably the best opening credit scene I've ever seen in any movie ever. It's even better than the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 Mr. Blue Sky opening credit scene, or it's even better than the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 that Redbone song, Come and Get Your Love. I can't think of any other superhero opening credit scenes that are of note. So sorry, that's all I got. So anyway, Hugh Jackman's in it, who's a really good person. I just want to put that out there. He has absolutely no controversies, especially right now.
I believe you.
I appreciate it. He shouldn't. I think I don't know. I brought up that I watched this movie to my mom, and my mom is a huge Hugh Jackman fan. And so I brought up, hey, it's your boy, Hugh Jackman. And she was like, oh, I don't like Hugh Jackman right now because he left his wife for the co-star of The Greatest Showman, and they were having an affair for years, and his wife didn't know it. And so then he divorced his wife, and then the person he was having an affair with divorced her husband. So it was like, public scandal. He's not Hollywood's golden boy. He's unfaithful to his wife, which I know is shocking. Most actors are faithful to their wives. Most prominent celebrities are faithful family folk, you know. None of them have ever cheated on their significant others. None of them have ever had a messy divorce. So for Hugh Jackman to have this, it's kind of shocking, especially someone in his occupation and fame level. I mean, you'd expect like some guy making 20K a year working at Ace Hardware to cheat on his wife, but not a multimillionaire star of many films to cheat on his wife. That's practically unheard of. So sorry, Hugh Jackman, but I can't say that you were good in this movie. Otherwise, I will be labeled as a misogynist. And frankly, I can't handle that right now. I have too much on my plate. Many legal court cases coming up, and I can't tack one more on. So, sorry, Hugh Jackman. He's terrible in this movie. And I will continue saying that throughout this entire thing, which is probably the worst thing that you can say about this movie because, sorry, I'm going to be misogynistic for a second. He's really, really good in it. It's probably his best performance that I've ever seen him in. Which, I mean, I haven't seen him in like serious stuff. He's kind of a thespian theatrical guy. So for this like super serious role, he does it really, really well. I guess he is Wolverine, and that was the first thing I brought up. But I've seen like the first two X-Men movies, and they were fine. I've not seen Logan, so sorry. But anyways, it's a dual narrative. Jake Gyllenhaal is there. He's a cop. He does cop things. He gets to the bottom of the case. It's a neo-noir thriller, and that part of it. The other part of it is Hugh Jackman. And I guess slight spoilers, but this happens at like the end of the first act, so it's not a huge spoiler, but you know, just want to throw it out there. Hugh Jackman, like, or whatever, Paul Dano gets out of jail. They don't have any evidence to hold him there, and so they have to release him, even though everyone is pretty sure that he's the one that kidnapped the girls, and he's just not talking. So he's out of jail, and on his first night home, Hugh Jackman kidnaps him, locks him in an abandoned like apartment complex, and chains him to the bathroom of like one of the apartments. And throughout the rest of the movie, pretty much, Hugh Jackman is like torturing Paul Dano to try to get where his kid is, and it's something to watch. I guess is maybe the best way I can put it. I don't want to go too much into graphic detail because it does get kind of graphic. You never see like anything super bad, but you see the aftermath. There's definitely like stuff insinuated where it's like he's about to do something and then we cut away and we hear Paul Dano screaming. So it's not like a Saw movie or any other like splatter film. It's more of like it's a psychological thriller, I guess. And so, but the insinuation is there, and it's kind of hard to see that. Even like in a world where like Paul Dano probably kidnapped those kids, like while you're watching the movie, it's like kind of hard to watch him get tortured in that way. It's hard. It's hard to watch. So I don't that's kind of why I was like, this is something that everyone should see if they can handle it, because it is something that like it's not for the like faint-hearted, I guess. If you're a sensitive soul, then you might want to stay away from this one. But it's very, very good. There's a lot of twists and turns. You never are really sure what's going on. Um, I will say this. I've rated both of these movies 4.5 stars. There's like one thing holding me back for both of these from rating them as perfect. And for Prisoners, it's largely the Jake Gyllenhaal part because, and I love Jake Gyllenhaal. This is not his like best performance. And I think most of that comes from the script. I should also note that Denis Villeneuve did not write this movie. You can tell because most of it is people talking, which is famously something that Denis Villeneuve does not like. So he's more about like big set pieces and like visual moments, a lot of visual storytelling from that guy, not so much in like the actual dialogue. So for a movie that's mostly people talking to each other and then horrific violence, you can tell it's probably not written by him. I think it's based on a book too, so it's kind of like there's like two layers here removed. Um, but like the Jake Gyllenhaal portions, we don't see a lot of him, which I think is a problem. If you're going to be doing a dual narrative thing, um, then I would like to have seen more Jake Gyllenhaal. I get that the Hugh Jackman part is kind of the crux of the movie. That's what the whole point is. Um, where it's almost kind of like a Joker thing, where or like the Killing Joke, where that book is like trying to drive Commissioner Gordon crazy because Joker shoots Barbara Gordon in the spine, paralyzes her from the waist down, and then he takes a bunch of pictures of her naked with like a bullet wound through her and tries to get Commissioner Gordon to go crazy. And that's kind of the point of the prisoners thing too, where the kidnapper, I won't say who it is, but the kidnapper is kind of like trying to do this to like specifically like make good people go bad. And so I get that's the crux. That's the theme of the movie, and that's what they're trying to do. But then like we just randomly cut to Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a dual narrative thing. They're both supposed to be like main protagonists, but we spend so much time with Hugh Jackman that it doesn't really feel balanced in that way. And I think some of Jake Gyllenhaal's scenes might have been cut because we see like him like starting the investigation. We see some like him like getting some clues, and then like we kind of check in with him like every 20 minutes, and then like by the end he has like this huge meltdown where he's like, I didn't solve the case fast enough. This isn't a spoiler, but like he's just like, oh, there's some deadline, and I failed, and I was like so invested in this case, and I'm like, well, we didn't see that. We saw like you just kind of like chill, no, not chill, but like just kind of gather information. But he wasn't like working all day and night. We didn't see like the mental like strain and stuff that would like come from someone being really invested in a case like this. We didn't see enough of that. So then when that comes up in the third act, it doesn't feel completely earned. So like I think that it's just a little misstep, and I'm pretty sure that came in the editing. But also, the movie is 2.5 hours long, so I suspect they were like, the studio was probably like, no, you're not going to go over 3 hours. Which I don't know if any of his movies are over 3 hours, which is kind of shocking because of how like slow paced they are. It almost feels like they should be, but uh, I don't know. Out of all of the ones I've seen, this one is definitely the one that needed like 10 or 15 minutes added to it just to like completely flesh out the Jake Gyllenhaal arc. Because I think the Hugh Jackman stuff is all great and I wouldn't cut any of it. Even though it's all hard to watch, it's important, and that's what the movie's trying to do. But if we're going to have emotional arcs with Jake Gyllenhaal, it needs to be established. That's all I'm saying. So, uh, that's Prisoners. I won't go any more into it because I don't want to spoil anything. And I don't know. I don't think I've really spoiled anything. I think it's still definitely worth a watch. Um, Even if you did listen to this whole review, I think it's a must see, if you will. It's a Villeneuve classic, I guess. Which honestly, that guy, and I don't really say this lightly. I think he might be like one of the best filmmakers, maybe period. And I'm very, very excited that I'm living in a time where he is still making movies and I'm watching one of the greatest like continue to make movies and improve. Like Dune 2 is phenomenal. Honestly, like Arrival into Blade Runner into Dune and then Dune 2, um, they're all great. My only hope is that Villeneuve does not like get sucked into the like studio IP system. I mean, he's kind of done that with his last three. I would love him to like return to creating like, I mean, yes, this was based on a book, but like original ideas. Like nobody had made a prisoners movie before. Maybe there's a good reason for that. But I don't know. I will watch Dune Messiah or whatever he's making next, but I would really love him to return to this style of filmmaking. And please don't drop off. I would be so sad. So that's that. Anyways, let's do a complete 180 and talk about a Christmas movie about the heart of the Christmas spirit and an origin story for everyone's favorite red. I was going to say favorite red man, and that just would have been in poor taste. Favorite red suited man, I guess is the best way to do it. The Coca-Cola designed old man that gives you gifts on Christmas, Klaus. A great film from 2019. And maybe I should talk about my arc with this movie, because I actually was anticipating this movie when it was coming out, because I watched a trailer for it, and I was in film school at the time, friends with a bunch of animators. And so that's why it was on my radar. They were like, yo, you need to check this out. Look at the animation on this ish. And uh, when I saw the animation, I was like, oh, we're so back. I mean, that wasn't a term in 2019 or 2018, but that was the sentiment, because this movie is hand drawn. I don't think it's cell, like it doesn't feel like a like an old Disney movie. Um, but it's hand drawn, and and that was in 2019. I mean, we're still not getting any hand drawn animated stuff, um, or at least 2D animation. So this is like really great, and it's all like really beautiful too. It almost feels cell shaded in like the lighting and how vibrant the colors are, but it's not, because it's not 3D. So I don't know. It's the art style. I just need to highlight it because it's great, and I wish that more of this style of animation was being done. I guess that's what it comes down to. I don't know if I really need to get into the story. I guess a little bit. I'll get into it a little bit. Jason Schwartzman plays a mailman, which strikes very close to home. He plays a mailman, but he is a arrogant, uh, entitled, rich boy whose dad is like the equivalent of like a postmaster general, which I guess was a distinguished title back in the day. And it also came with a bunch of cash. So Jason Schwartzman is just kind of he's a layabout guy. He reminds me a lot of Cusco from Emperor's New Groove. And I'm not just saying that because I thought for a second it was David Spade playing the postman, and then I looked it up and it was Jason Schwartzman, who's in like every Wes Anderson movie. I definitely did not make that link in my head early on. It's fine, but he plays a postman, and he's been lazy and entitled his whole life. And his dad says, Jason Schwartzman, you need to mosey up to this icy, barren wasteland of an island, and you need to set up a post office there, and you need to uh, send out like 6,000 letters in a year's time. Otherwise, you're cut off. No caviar, no silk sheets, no fancy butler. You're going to be living on the streets in a cardboard box. And then you'll have to mail yourself, and then I'll physically stamp your package and send it off to hell. I hate you, Jason Schwartzman. And so then Jason Schwartzman goes up to this island, and it's a terrible, hellish wasteland. Everybody is fighting. It takes place in a town or island. Everybody on the island is feuding. There's two feuding families. There's the like gaunt folks. They all like look like they're in the Addams family. And then there's the fiery redheaded folks, and they don't like each other because tradition, I guess. It's basically I forget that famous Family Feud, not that Family Feud with Steve Harvey, but there was like it's in Tennessee or something. There was like a famous uh, like generation long feud between two families in the Appalachian Mountains. And I don't remember what they were called, but if you Google those terms, you'll probably find it. And I'm not going to do it right now because I'm going to be talking about this hit film, but it's akin to that. So picture a long family feud. And it's insinuated that this feud has gone back uh, thousands of years. There's old cave paintings of the two families fighting. There's like Egyptian style, Greek style, Mesopotamian style stuff depicting these two families feuding, trying to figure out what that survey says. And neither of them get the top answer, unfortunately. It's just an ever ongoing feud forever, and nobody wins. And it's a and most importantly to the story, nobody wants to send a letter to anybody, which is probably the worst part. I don't care about the killing or the fighting or the name calling even, which is the worst thing there. It's just that they don't send letters. So Jason Schwartzman just kind of chills in an abandoned shack. But then he gets an idea when he meets an old woodsman played by J.K. Simmons, the best actor of our generation. And he's J.K. Simmons, aka Klaus. He has a kind heart. He has a gruff exterior. He carries a big axe, and he's a big old fella. Everybody's scared of him, but deep down he's a kind soul. And he finds out that one of the little kids is sad because his dad locks him up all day because he doesn't want him playing with the other family's kids. And so Klaus decides one night he's going to give him a big old present, and the kid loves it. And so then the crux of the story is Jason Schwartzman and Klaus, getting ready every night and delivering presents, and they end up uniting the town until Christmas comes, and then they deliver presents to everybody. It's a wonderful season. It's a beautiful film about community and family and what it really means to really imbue the Christmas spirit. and and I guess the best part, there's no Jesus in it. My favorite Christmas movie before this, which I don't even know if you could really call it a movie, is Charlie Brown Christmas. It's like 30 minutes. I guess that's like technically a movie, but whatever. I just love how like slow paced and like community focused it is. It's just very comfy to me. Um, but there is that scene, and it's an infamous scene. I don't know if it's infamous. It's infamous to me, where it's just like the story grinds to a halt, and then Linus like takes center stage and reads a Bible verse, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot this movie came out like 70 years ago, and they had to shoehorn in the real meaning of Christmas. And the real meaning of Christmas isn't like be a good person, be generous, be thankful for the people around you, celebrate your found family in addition to your real family if they're nice people. Gather around the warm fire, exchange gifts and presents that were thoughtfully chosen for the other people in your life because you know them so well. No, that's not Christmas. That's actually dumb. The real meaning of Christmas is that a little boy was born in a barn 2,000 years ago. And isn't that neat? I think it's pretty neat. So that, I don't know, it subtracts some points. But what I like about this movie is that it's all about Santa Claus. It's an origin story for Santa Claus, and it's just a lovely. It basically is that thing that I was just talking about, where it is just like this really cozy thing, where it's like all the found family stuff, where it is like they're bringing the town together. They're getting rid of that old family feud. Steve Harvey, he got veneers. He looks very different. That doesn't really have anything to do with the movie. I just wanted to bring it up for really no reason. Um, but it's just a lovely movie. It has a great atmosphere. And also going back on the whole color thing that I was talking about with Wicked, this movie's color palette is like really, really great. And I think a large part of that is the hand-drawn animation. Not that you can't get interesting color stuff in 3D animation. I mean, look at like Coco. That is like that is a gorgeous movie. And a large part of that is the vibrant colors. Or even something like the Spider-Verse movies. There's still like I guess that's like 2.5D kind of. It's like 3D, but then it's like stylized and just a bunch of filters on it, whatever. Um, but whatever. Colors. I think color is used very effectively here. It's similar to what I talked about when I talked about The Wild Robot, where the movie starts off, he moves to this old barren town. Everything is gray. It's always cloudy outside. It's snowy. All of the houses are old and dingy. They have that like rotted wood where it's like you could tell that it used to be nice like 50 years ago, but now it's like almost black because of how old and rotted the wood is, and nobody is like upkeeping it because they're always shooting each other and stuff. So like it really sets the tone. And for like a hand-drawn movie, you're expecting to see like some, pretty colors. And so like for the first 20 minutes there being like none, it is pretty shocking. But over time, as the town starts to warm up, as tensions start to die down, there starts to be like little injections of color, and a large part of that are the toys that Santa Claus drops off, are the like actual presents where they are wrapped with like brightly colored presents, and it literally injects some color into the world. And over time, it becomes a really bright and vibrant place, which is nice. It's a good visual representation of what the movie's all about, which is bringing people together. Also, it's a movie that is about tearing down traditional conservatism and, uh, I don't know, stopping racism, maybe? I don't know. Kind of. There's not a black person in the movie, which is kind of shocking. The movie came out in 2019 and there's like no people of color. But I think what they were like going for, and this maybe isn't like an excuse, but it's something. I think they didn't want it to be like a race thing, like with the two feuding families. If one was like a black family and one was a white family, that might lead to some uncomfortable conversations that you would have to have with kids, which those conversations should happen. But I don't know if you want those conversations to happen at Christmas time around family. Just gonna just gonna leave that there, I guess. You might have racist uncles. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, statistically, you probably have racist uncles. I'm just being honest. As if you're white, I guess. Well,
I think if you're anything,
yeah,
a
if you're
racist uncle is
anything,
just a permanent.
yeah, I think I just kind of caught myself. I'm like, actually, that's not exclusive. I think everyone has a racist uncle. I don't know what it is about uncles. What? Why is it always uncles?
I think
Why?
there's always like one uncle where like life didn't really go his way and he kind of
Yeah,
fell into some weird stuff or,
that's true.
went through some things and now he's just kind of the weird uncle.
That's true, but why don't like racist aunt? That's not like a thing. I mean, I'm sure there are racist aunts, but I feel like a
Yeah, if you just
racist
go to like
uncle.
any white Thanksgiving and like
Well, yeah,
once the wine gets passed around, the things you hear just offhand are
that's true.
surprising.
Well, that is true. That is true. And I will say this, as a mailman, as Jason Schwartzman myself, I do deliver a fair amount of the Epoch Times to women. They're listed, they are
Oh,
addressed to
Falun
women.
Gong.
Yeah, I know. I love the Epoch Times. I actually like things were kind of dead one morning. Well, it wasn't dead, but like I was waiting for the package people to like stop like throwing packages and sort them. So I like kind of sat down and read some of the Epoch Times, and it is wild.
Yes, it is.
It's a wild newspaper. I honestly didn't know much about like newspapers, I guess in general, but man, that is I didn't know that you could get away with saying some of the
There
stuff.
is a long and confusing history surrounding all of that.
I'm sure. It's just it's shocking. It's
It
shock.
involves aliens, Donald Trump screenplays, but just a couple of things.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that, but they do say some interesting things. I actually I just delivered a bunch of Epoch Times that all had the like cabinet picks that Trump was
Mm.
picking. And this was like a couple days ago, so long after this was announced. They had Matt Gaetz as Secretary of State on the front page.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little out of date. Just just want to say that.
They just haven't caught up yet.
I guess not. I don't know when that was printed. It must have been printed a while ago, or at least designed a while ago, because it's been a couple weeks at least since he stepped down and became a Twitch streamer or whatever, or Kick streamer. I don't know what he is. He should just join Tucker Carlson and just be on Twitter, right?
It could work.
I think so. um, but anyway, the movie. Oh yeah, I do. I was being kind of facetious when I was saying that like it's tackling traditional conservatism and racism. I think it's an interesting like way they talk about it though. When it's like when they like whenever we get to like I don't know why I can't talk right now. Whenever we see scenes with like the leaders of the two houses and like we ask why are you fighting, and it's just like, well, we're fighting because that's the way it's always been. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. It's very like it's heavy-handed. Sure, I wasn't really looking for a subtle like I don't know take on I guess I don't even know like I guess it's just traditional conservatism. Like I guess that's the term for it where it's like, ah, we just do it this way because that's the way it's always been done, even if it hurts other people along the process. It's like very explicit in how they talk about it. There's not a lot of subtlety, but I think that's honestly good. Like if because it's a Christmas movie. It's a movie you're going to be showing to kids. It's a good like conversation starter, which as a fan of animated movies, I actually love that. I love that these types of movies exist, where they might be introducing new concepts to kids in a way that's accessible and fun, and can lead to like really meaningful honestly kind of philosophical conversations that you can have with young kids, um, if they're ready for it. And I think that that's kind of beautiful. I really love that like this movie doesn't shy away from that and is willing to engage on those topics that uh, that I think is it's good. It's just good. I'm glad that these types of movies exist. It's kind of, and I know that this is overplayed. I know everyone talks about this, but it reminds me a lot of the Puss in Boots like panic attack thing, where I'm sure a lot of kids saw that, didn't know what that was. It was just a scene in a movie where Puss in Boots was freaking out and he had to take a second. And then after that movie like was over, maybe the kid was thinking about it, asked their parents, and like that led to a more in-depth conversation on mental health. I love that that exists. And yes, like that's become like a thing. And now there's like a Spider-Verse like short that's coming out that's all about Miles having a panic attack. And it's become like that's the thing that that Puss in Boots movie is remembered for, maybe. Um, But I think that having those scenes in something can lead to interesting conversations with young people. And I think that's good for a society that we're introducing these topics early. And I'm just really glad that, every kids movie isn't just colors, lights, and sensory engagement videos, just something to distract kids. Not every animated movie is an illumination movie, which is just that. Something to keep your kids distracted for an hour, hour and a half, so that the parents can chill, drink some coffee, smoke a cigarette outside while the kid watches it on their 32-inch smart TV. I'm just glad that there's still stuff, and I mean this came out 5 years ago, but there's still stuff being made that has some substance to it. Um, that is it's trying to reach kids, and I think it's great. So that's why I rated it 4.5 stars. I think it's a great movie, very comfy, very beautiful too. I don't know if I really emphasized enough how gorgeous this movie is. And it also has a pretty good message and good scenes for kids. And it's just cute. So, and it has Norm Macdonald in it. He is in it. And I like him. He's very funny. He might have been more conservative than I am, but he's funny. He's a funny guy. I don't think you can take that away from him. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. uh yeah, so that's Klaus. Um that's pretty much it. Those are the two movies I watched. Both of them are worth checking out. If you've not seen Klaus, you should check it out. If you've not seen Prisoners, maybe wait. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're ready for it and you want to watch a movie about torture and the depravity of the human spirit, or if you want to be uplifted and have your heart grow 3 times its size, then watch Klaus. I really went through an emotional whiplash this week or these last 2 weeks. Actually, they were separated enough that it wasn't really that much of whiplash. But it's a little bit of whiplash in this podcast where I'm talking about them. So that's something, I guess. But that's pretty much it. That's all I watched. I watched 2 movies in 2 weeks because it's very busy for me. But I think right now I'm going to toss it on over to Babby for his segment of the show.
Music.
Music!
I love music. There's not a lot going on, but we got some stuff to talk about.
Okay.
A little bit of news. We got a new Mike single. You're the only one watching.
Oh,
Uh, First single from his new record Showbiz that comes out January 31st. Very excited. I've become such a big Mike fan, and I've only heard like 3 of his records. I need to do more of them. But he just makes me feel so good, and it's such a feel good, chill kind of hip hop that I need more of in my life.
yeah, he's
But
great.
that's coming end of January. The new single's okay. I think I never have an issue with this. I know you do. The sample is way too loud in
Oh,
this song compared to his vocals.
yeah.
Um, an extreme amount where you can't hear what he's saying, and the vocal sample he's using in the sample is way too loud. Um, which the song still sounds decent, but it is kind of annoying. This is the only time that I've ever had that happen. I think it's just because the mix is like kind of extremely based on that vocal sample. So, um, but very excited for the record. I know he just announced a world tour with a whole bunch of dates, so check that out as well. But I'm very excited for that. January's like kind of building up to be a pretty sick month already. So,
Uh-oh.
looks like the 24th is a big day for a lot of stuff. Um, so it's not gonna. I think the year's gonna start kind of hot because we got the weekend on the 24th as well.
Oh, man.
So, um, yeah. And whenever SZA does release that album, I'm sure it won't be this year at this point because I think she's just
No.
lying. But although there is a Kendrick tour, so maybe
Hmm.
she wants to release before, or maybe it's done and she's able to just kind of do the tour and let the marketing do itself.
I don't
Um,
know.
but I guess we'll find out with that. I think the only other thing that released or yeah released this week was that Jay Schlatt Christmas album, which is
What?
crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
he makes
Um,
music.
he did like one song like last year, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is so good." And then apparently,
Oh,
I think people were making AI music of him doing Christmas music. So he was like, "Stop doing this. I'm making my own Christmas album so I can make money off of it." Um,
oh,
People are saying it's really good. I have not listened to it yet. I'm sure I will be subjected to listen to it eventually.
subjected.
But
Have you no
um,
whimsy? Give it a
I don't
listen.
like Christmas music, but I think I can bear in for I can bear it for Jay Schlatt.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. Um, but yeah, everything else that came out this week, I don't really. There's not really much to talk about. There was that Juice World album with the horrible album cover. I think he's in Fortnite now too, which is just
Yes.
despicable. So, um, man, imagine dying and like then you're in a Fortnite video game and everybody's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah, I think
this is what he
Fortnite.
would have wanted."
I
Did
think.
Fortnite even exist?
Yeah, it did because it was like in high school people were playing it, so it was like 2017. Wait, when did Juice die?
I don't know. I thought Fortnite really blew up in like 2019.
I mean, it did. Fortnite as a game has been out for like 8 years, but it was like a
Yeah.
base building tower defense
Yeah.
game a while. I don't know.
Juice World died December 8th, 2019.
Okay, so he was definitely alive when Fortnite, but it wasn't like what it
It
is
wasn't the
now.
state it was at now.
Yeah. I will
Um,
say, I think Fortnite got like an all-time higher or highest like player count during that concert because there was like three people. Juice World was just one of them.
mhm.
I don't remember who the other two were,
I don't either. I feel like
but
Weezer was one of them.
that I don't. Would people really log into Fortnite to see
It would
Weezer,
make sense. I don't know.
Weezer and Juice World?
I thought Weezer was in there. Maybe that was just a joke though. I can't tell anymore.
That's true because Juice World was real and that's a joke.
Yeah, that's like I don't know. I just can't imagine dying a tragic death at a young age and then being ported into a video game in a microtransaction. That just seems like the worst
Yeah.
hellscape possible.
I mean,
Um,
Tupac, it kind of happened to Tupac.
that's true. He got hologrammed.
He did.
Yeah, that's also
Because he was like 24, right?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Um, but yeah, that's it for new releases this week. Oh, another thing coming out January 24th, we have the new Gaius Guevara album. He recently got signed to Fat Possum, which is fantastic. Um,
Oh.
so I'm so excited for him to be like on a bigger label, getting a little bit more publicity. I've only listened to I think two of his projects, but I've really enjoyed both of them. So I'm very excited for this album. It's great that him and Elucid are on the same label technically now. So um, I think yeah he is featured on the new record as well as McKinley Dixon, which is crazy. So that'll be out January 24th. It's going to be a big day, but I'm excited. Um, okay, I didn't listen to anything new this week,
Oh.
but yeah, I'm having such a hard time with this list week. This is the hardest one we've done. Um,
Yeah.
we need to do 15, and I have 20 in this doc, and I can't stand to get rid of any of them. So I'm gonna have to really do a lot of re-listening to things and figuring out what needs to go.
Oh,
There's so many
geez.
albums I want to talk about, and I don't want all of us to overlap so much. But at the same time, my true list would include those albums, so I'm
Yeah.
struggling a little bit.
I don't know.
But we'll get there.
Yeah.
It's starting to take form.
Okay.
I think I'll reach a place where I'm just done touching it and it will be too much effort. So, um, but I did want to talk about Spotify Wrapped,
Oh.
which that
Oh.
came out.
Okay. I know.
Mainly because it sucked this year.
Yeah. Mine was. I don't know. I guess it was kind of surprising, but it didn't. People are upset because the AI thing, right?
Um, I would think they're upset about the AI thing, but they're also upset with just like how mundane and like
Yeah.
fake everything feels in it. Um, I think Wrapped has like reached a peak in like 21 or 22 and then just kind of fell off a little bit.
I like the
Um,
tarot card last year.
that was fun. I do like where
It
it
was
was like, here's
quirky.
the city that matches your music taste.
Yeah, I
And then
like
put like a
that.
whole bunch of people in like one tiny city in Vermont or something.
Yeah,
That was fun.
I like that.
But this year we get zero of those things.
Yeah.
It pretty much just shows you like how many minutes and there's no genres at all. It's like picks like a
Yeah.
calendar month and then it gives you like a completely like randomly generated genre that makes absolutely no sense and is just
Yeah.
kind of off-putting. Um,
Also, I sorry to interrupt, but one of mine was like in August, and that was the
mhm.
year that I listened to Future Nostalgia, and I listened to it once, and it said Dua Lipa was my top artist for that month.
That's
And I'm
crazy.
like, that's just not true. I don't know where that came from. It's so weird.
Yeah, I think that's another thing is like it feels like the data is not accurate this year for a
Yeah.
lot of people. That I feel like they cut off super early, and I think this has always been an issue where it's like it's very beginning of the year heavy with people,
Oh.
um, which is strange. Like all of my stuff usually is like from the first 6 or 7 months of the year, and then it feels like all the other stuff just like does not get counted at all,
Mm.
um, which is very strange. Like I had Radiohead at number 5 on mine, and I didn't really listen to
Oh.
Radiohead at all this year.
That's
Um,
weird.
I listened to The Smile more than Radiohead this year, but The Smile was not on there, which was
Oh.
strange. Um, but I don't know. It feels like the hype for it was weird this year. I feel like people are always like, I need to see my Wrapped right now, just so they can see the
I
artist that they're expecting to see.
Yeah, I've never
Um,
gotten that.
yeah, I think this year's also different because like I split my time between Spotify and Tidal for like more than half of the minutes or like 70,000 minutes I did were
Oh,
podcasts, which
yeah.
was interesting. But I got my Tidal Wrapped, and that's completely different than my Spotify Wrapped, which I thought was interesting. Like
That
my
is
artists were
interesting.
different and my top songs were different. So I feel like my Tidal one is more accurate since that's what I do most of my listening on now.
Probably.
But I don't know that it feels like it's weird because you don't really get viral marketing campaigns like this that often anymore that people are actually like legitimately excited for. Wrapped is like a gigantic one where like all these other companies start going on to it now
Yeah.
because everybody loves seeing their stats at the end of the year, which I think is another weird thing. Um, with music, it's fun though. Like
Yeah.
people like lists, they like numbers, they like all that kind of stuff.
Well, and your
Um,
tastes change throughout the year, so that's kind
exactly.
of
So
fun.
it's fun to document.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to this year, like I know Spotify has made a gigantic push towards AI. They fired like 50% of
Mm.
their team that does like playlist curation and like personalized stuff. So all that is AI now. So if your mixes have gotten worse or just like nonsensical, that is most likely the reason.
Yeah.
Um, also, just getting rid of half your workforce for that stuff is like again not great.
Gross.
Um, but it feels like they got rid of a lot of like the marketing budget for it as well because like usually Wrapped, you have the fun little things where it's like here's the city that you would like match
Yeah.
with most or here's a tarot whatever that'll like match your listening style.
Yeah.
And this year was just like numbers getting thrown at us. I felt like the graphics were really uninspired.
Yeah.
Everything just felt flat and like here you go, like
Yeah.
just take it, like fine, you guys are still excited about this, whatever, take it. um I didn't listen to like the AI stuff, but like you get like an AI, your Wrapped AI podcast or the
Oh.
DJ Wrapped or all of these different things or your top songs 2024, which is probably an AI playlist. Like I don't, none of this is
Probably.
interesting to me.
Yeah. I didn't listen to any of that either. I didn't
I'm
know that there was
scared
a
to.
podcast.
I tapped on the DJ on accident once and then never wanted to do that ever again in my life. Um,
Why? I think he sounds charming and fun.
it's so scary. But yeah, I don't know. I've gotten like turned off more and more every year by Spotify. Like, I'm not saying like Tidal is like this great service or whatever because it's not. It does pay their artists significantly more. Spotify pays like a max of like 1/3 of a cent per stream.
And that's for
maybe
like
even
Taylor
less than that,
Swift.
which is insane.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it does not really support artists at all in any capacity. Tidal at least pays a lot more out. I think Apple Music does slightly as well.
Yeah.
Um, but like if supporting artists should not be done on Spotify. Like it should be through Bandcamp and merch sales and tour sales and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
This isn't new, but just like putting it out there, like it'll show that you're a top 0.0005 listener on Spotify and like, oh my God, you're their biggest fan. But it's like, that's not really supporting an artist. Like if you actively engage in music as a hobby or something like that, you should be buying physicals or buying Bandcamp releases or
Oh,
buying
absolutely.
merch tickets, like that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but I think a lot of people are still very, not, they don't realize how it works behind the scenes. I think some people still have the idea in their head that like a lot of musicians are like they have it made, where a lot of them actually
Oh.
do not.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's not even to mention labels and stuff. Like this is just purely like what they pay out. Um, so I just thought it was interesting because I felt like the vibe switched on Wrapped a lot this year. I feel like people were not as excited about it. Um, I feel like it used to be like every single person I've ever known in my entire life was posting their Wrapped like right away at 10:30 when it dropped for the
Yeah.
past couple of years, and now it's just kind of like dwindling down to a smaller and smaller and smaller subsect of people. Um,
That's true.
and I'm still seeing Kanye in a lot of people's. What are you doing?
That is shocking.
uh,
Kanye
I
didn't
don't know.
make it on mine.
He definitely didn't make it on mine. I don't think he had a single song anywhere on mine.
Nope.
Devil in a New Dress is the only thing I cannot drop. I still have to play that song because it is just so incredible. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Also, my all my stuff was messed up this year because I have Mount Erie and the microphones as 1 and 2. So it's
Oh
just
yeah.
basically one artist. So
Yeah.
I kind of got robbed of having a top 5.
That's
Um,
true.
all of my top songs are Glow Part 2 songs as well. So that, yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
See, yeah, I don't get it because my top artist was Sufjan, which that makes
Hmm.
sense. None of my top 5 songs were Sufjan songs.
That's interesting.
I don't understand how that can happen. Well, actually, I do kind of understand it because I think when it comes to Sufjan for me, I don't really stick to one album. I'm always jumping around, and it's like day
Hmm.
to day. It's like, I'll just throw on A Beginner's Mind, or I'll throw on Javelin, or something like that. So I kind of understand it, but then like all of them were Novo Amor songs, and I like the Novo Amor album. I didn't know I listened to it that much. I don't know if I listened to
Yeah,
it that much.
exactly.
So I don't know. It's really weird.
There seems like there's a disconnect this year. Maybe it's just like knowing all of the AI stuff that they're having going. It seems like it doesn't look as accurate as it used to be.
It could be.
I know
Yeah.
people were always like sometimes like some people like block off like names on their top 5 because they're embarrassed about it or whatever when that used to happen.
Oh, don't care
Um,
about that.
but now it's just like I don't know. People are like this doesn't sound correct
I
at
I
all.
I don't know. My top 5 sounds correct because it's Sufjan, Novo Amor, Bon Iver, Slow Pulp, and Porter Robinson. That feels like a pretty
Hmm.
good encapsulation of my year this year. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I felt like my top 5 songs were probably accurate, but like after like April or May, I stopped Glow Part 2 consumption almost fully
Oh,
and moved on to a lot of other things.
that's
But I
interesting.
think it's just because of how many times I played those specific songs that they shot to the
Hmm.
top. So I don't know, it's a weird data thing.
That would
But
make sense. But when did you
yeah.
switch to Tidal?
I think in May or June. So
So that
same
that might
time.
be a part of
That's
it
probably
too.
another reason why. Um, yeah.
Yeah, because like those Novo and More songs, my top 3 were Novo and More songs. I didn't find that album until like July. And then
Hmm.
my number 4 is Monongahela Park, which I just listened to for the
Interesting.
first time like 3 or 4 months ago.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Confusing. But I do wish they would talk about albums. It's always
Yeah.
songs with these people. Where are
I
like the album wrapped? Like I want to hear my album stats and like put my
yeah.
albums into genres. Like that would be much more interesting. I think Spotify again, like the CEO and everything, they're all about like content and
Yeah.
songs and charts and all these different things where it's like the album is dying out still Despite
Yeah.
vinyl sales going up, like all of these digital music platforms do not promote albums. It's just singles and playlists. Like talk
Yeah.
about albums and categorize them because people will get more excited about it because it
Absolutely.
gives them a reason to be more interested in albums, especially younger people, because they're going to continue to get disconnected with actual art forms as this kind of stuff. Like if you grow up with Spotify, it's going to drastically change how you perceive music, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that is true. I think a lot of people are moving away from the album model and are
Hmm.
instead like favoring singles or EPs, like just because that's what works better on Spotify, which sucks.
Yep. Or they're doing the opposite thing where like if it is an album, you're putting 25 songs on there so
Oh,
you can get
yeah.
as many songs as possible to chart and as many playlist plays. Or you do a Taylor Swift where you release 75 deluxe editions of a
Oh, that's
30 track album
yeah.
for chart gimmick. So at the end of the day, like there's data in like, oh, you get your personal data for the year, but it's also like all of this data is used to like make people chart more. It's used to like it all diminishes the art form at the end of the day. Um, and it's kind of scary. But at the same time, like you can support like musicians that aren't gigantic artists. It's just you
Oh,
have to
yeah.
go out of your way a little bit to do it. And I in my opinion, it's worth it. I think when it comes to the year end video, there's a couple albums where it's like I have stories to tell about my first listen, and it's specifically great because I didn't listen to it on a streaming service for the first time, and I had to do something physically to listen to the music.
Yeah.
And that just adds to the experience a lot. So I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about lately, especially with the rap coming out. Because I'm like, this did not hit this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But how much of the like album versus single stuff that could just be the art form evolving? Because
Hmm.
that's just how it works. I mean, albums have been I mean, it was definitely more of a thing in the olden days when you had to buy vinyl or you just heard stuff over the radio. And then that kind of went away. Like in the early 2000s, like when the introduction of iTunes came out, then it
Hmm.
was like buying individual tracks and like that became more of a thing. And then for
Yep.
some reason that went away again. I don't really know why.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can point to, but like from the 2010s until like a couple years ago, it seems like albums were back.
It
Like,
used to be expensive too. It was like a dollar
yeah,
29 per song.
it's wild. But like more people were talking like when Blonde dropped, like people were talking about Blonde. But
Hmm.
like when Drake drops now, might be a bad comparison. But when Drake drops, it's like, oh, did you hear Way Too Sexy?
Right.
Nobody's saying, did you listen to all of Certified Lover Boy?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know why that is. Maybe some of that's TikTok too, where songs are blowing up
That's
there
definitely part of it.
individually.
Yep.
I don't know. It's interesting how it all changes.
It is. And there's a pushback and a counter push to that. Like that's just how
Yeah.
things work usually, especially in an art form. Like there's gonna be a counter reaction to the reaction and it's gonna continue to do that.
Oh yeah.
So like we'll see times where albums are less important and it's more about hit songs or playlist type albums or something like that, or a new form that hasn't even been like really explored yet, which I don't know
That's
what that would
true.
even possibly be, but it's interesting.
It is interesting. But I agree. I would love to see album stats and wrapped
Yes,
because that's
please.
mostly what I do. I've said this
Exactly.
many times. I don't make playlists. I just listen to full albums all the way
Hmm.
through. So yeah, I don't know. Something to think about. Robot that runs
Truly is.
Spotify.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about Kendrick a little bit
Okay.
because we did the first reaction to GNX, but that was the first day, and there I feel like there wasn't a lot of context or time to actually lay out thoughts on it. And then 2 weeks later, here we are.
We're
Um,
here.
so the album is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
It's amazing.
Hmm.
Um, I think interesting to like see the community's reaction and the theories pop up and everything. I think there's one thing that bothers me with the Kendrick community a lot. There's a couple things, but this is the main one.
Hmm.
Every time he releases an album, they're immediately looking for the next album. Like he always thinks they always think there's like some
There's
hidden
a
code or
secret.
cipher or teaser.
There's gonna be
to
another
something
album.
else that's coming. This was like the big thing with Damn is that they thought Nation was dropping 2 days later.
Oh.
Um, but I think this really comes down to like because Damn was his most commercial album at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot more poppy than his other work. So it seemed like people were just like skipping over it and like looking for all these like little Easter
Yeah,
eggs and clues for something that was coming next, and then that would be the real album. They're doing the same thing with this album. At least they did when it first came out,
that's
and that
weird.
reads really strange to me.
Yeah, I that's weird. Like, I honestly, I can kind of get it with this album because it's
I can
very
too.
different.
Yes.
But damn, like that is, yes, it sounds poppy and there's a lot of like big heaters on that, but like it's very conceptual.
Hmm.
This is, I mean, there's conceptual moments on GNX, but most of it is just kind of a victory lap. It seems like. I mean, not
Yeah.
like totally about the Drake stuff, but it feels like this is like, let's just have some fun for the most part.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I like it. I don't
Oh
need
yeah.
another
I
one.
think it's fantastic. I think it's just like, why are we not
Why aren't we
perceiving
happy?
the music right away, and why are we not talking about it directly, and why are we looking for something else? I think
Yeah.
Kendrick has a pretty big fan base, and I think there are sections of it that get incredibly nerdy, like myself included a couple years ago.
Sure.
Um, and I think that diminishes from the pure art form a little bit because we're skipping over these large concepts and trying to look for minute things. Um, there was like one theory that I really did enjoy, which was like that every single Kendrick album has had a vehicle that like kind of takes it through. Like
Mm.
Good Kid, Mad City is like um, a short film, I think is what it says on the thing.
Yeah, it does.
T-Pab is like this stage play, or no, Morale is a stage play. T-Pab
Oh,
has this
yeah.
poem that is like this whole thing is centered around. Damn has this wickedness or weakness that is
Mm-hmm.
going through all of it. Um, and GNX can kind of be viewed as like a mixtape,
Yeah.
um, because you have the 1987 car that only has a tape deck in it. And he mentions like
Mm.
tapes, and like every single song has a reference or a sample to a specific old artist or moment. Um,
Oh,
and I thought
interesting.
that was a really cool idea because Luther obviously is Luther Vandross, but there's
Absolutely.
like samples and references on every single track that tie back to a certain thing that like go back to a time period where Kendrick would be sitting in a car like at a younger age listening to something like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, and the
Like,
GNX with Anita Baker in the tape deck.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think people also pointed out that like his dad took him home from the hospital when he was born in a Buick Regal, which is the base version of a GNX,
Mm.
which I thought was interesting. Um, 87 is also significant because that was the year he was born. Um,
Ah, pulling
yeah,
a Taylor Swift.
exactly. So there are these little details that he puts in there that I think are really smart. And I don't know. It was interesting, like just observing the community's reaction because there's a large sect of the Kendrick fan base who is like this intellectualized version of it, where they think everything needs to have 17 different meanings. Um, but I
uh,
think just listening to this album over and over again, it's like even something that feels like so straightforward like this, the layers and little details, especially in the production, like Soundwave absolutely murdered
oh,
this album.
absolutely. Yeah.
um it's just really great the way the songs progress and everything. There's like a moment in Reincarnated where like the guitar riff changes up in the third verse and like starts
Mm-hmm.
climbing these scales, and I'm like, this is just really detailed and
Oh, yeah.
incredible. um I'm still kind of putting together a couple of things because it seems like track 1 through 6 is connected and then 7 through 12 is connected. um
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
it's yeah, because Reincarnated is like this like very center point where it's like a very prominent like it's a Tupac sample or interpolation of a sample. He's kind of like going in a Tupac fashion,
Mm-hmm.
um, and comes to this like great conclusion at the end, kind of. But then you have like the all the features and the aggression on the second half for parts of it, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like he mentions like not tripping on the first half of the album and then tripping on the second half of the album. And with all the talk of like God, reincarnation, and like sin
Yeah.
on the sixth track, I'm like, is the first part of the album like the good angel on his shoulder, and the bad second half is, I don't know.
I'm
The,
not sure.
is trying to find threads in something that probably doesn't have all of it, but I don't think there needs to be a clear answer. I think just all
No.
the details and little things that connect the other tracks are just really fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I'm not sure. I think when it comes to reincarnated, something that I've noticed is that I'm pretty sure that the last verse, the one where he's going back and forth with God, I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
he's supposed to be Satan. I
Yes,
like
that's my interpretation.
because I mean, because it's there's something where he's like, I'm sorry I created this like energy. There and like God accuses him of like loving war and like being evil. And then at the end, like the last line is I rewrote the devil's story just to take the power back.
Mhm.
And so like that seems like, oh, okay. So like that was supposed to be like him as Satan, like atoning for his sins and like being a good boy now. And then like, I don't know, it's weird that that is immediately followed up with TV off, where it's like
Yes.
the most like it's funny, it's all over the place, it has a really great energy, but most importantly, I don't think there's any sort of like thematic big conceptual thing with TV off.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, there was a dissect like initial episode on it, and the person who co-wrote the Damn season was on there, and
Mm.
he's like got this like insane knowledge of all these biblical references. So he kind of broke down all of the stuff going on in there. I can't recite any of it because lost most of that info,
Yeah.
but um, how deep he goes into like certain biblical stories and how it like relates to like what he's trying to like it's always fascinating. Damn is a lot of that. Like
Oh yeah.
Damn is a incredibly thematic like conceptual album that is like almost overly conceptual, but you don't
Yes.
really like realize it unless you really start digging into that thing, which I think is part of the genius of that record.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a fantastic album. Like I didn't know how to feel after the first listen. I'm like, that was really great, but is it gonna hold up? And then the replays just like kept going and going and going. I'm like, it's addicting.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
there
no,
is
I
one
love it.
it's like I don't know where he goes from here because it seems like he's drawing a line in the sand of like
Mm.
he's cementing himself as like the guy now, which I think he is.
Yeah.
I I saw some like very solid, like valid criticism of Kendrick, which is like very rare to find this year with of
Mm.
all the Drake stuff because those people have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes.
Um, but when it comes to like him being the guy, I feel like he's more of a Jay Z than he is a Tupac, and I don't know if that's.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of that, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. Because Tupac, when he was on top of the world, like obviously politically he was very like connected.
Mhm.
His family was Black Panthers.
Yeah.
Assad Shakur, literally someone that had to flee to Cuba because of the FBI poking and prodding.
Mhm.
Um, he always kind of had that message, and he didn't stray away from it. With Kendrick, like in 2024 compared to where he was, he doesn't really relate himself to like I don't know. I feel like he was relating himself to like Huey Newton and all these people on
Mm.
like Section 80 and Good Kid, Mad City, and he had this very connected feel about him. But now he's kind of talking about being like the next big black CEO. He's doing all this Cash App
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah.
It feels like he's going in a Jay Z correct like direction when it comes to like building his empire and legacy in hip hop. Um, which I think is like kind of antithetical to a lot of his music, especially like
Yeah.
the things talked about on like T-Pab and like Mr. Morale. But at the same time, you have T-Pab and Mr. Morale, which are like these incredible, like layered, vulnerable records. And then you have Damn and GNX, which are like the ones that come after that are complete opposite.
Mhm.
It's interesting, but I don't know. It's interesting to see the direction he goes in because I understand the whole Kendrick is not your savior thing. I think that's the biggest line that everybody needs to get out of his discography.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what happens when he really gets in a situation that makes him uncomfortable
Mm.
because I don't think Kendrick's politics are what people think they are. I don't think he's that great politically.
No.
He's kind of just a run of the mill liberal. Like
Yeah.
big black CEO kind of Beyonce Jay Z vibe.
Mhm.
So it's going to be interesting if he ever is put in that situation. That's one thing Drake could have really brought up in the beef. I don't think it would have hit because
Well,
it's Drake saying
yeah,
it, and
yeah.
Drake never believed in a single thing in his life. But if he
Yep.
was going against someone else, like if he got on the bad side of like Most Def or something, there's a lot of things you could
Oh,
attack him for.
yeah.
Um,
Black
so
gets real
I
on
don't
that
know.
stuff.
It's an interesting thing because I'm like this is becoming a lot more prevalent, and I think it's going to matter a lot in the coming years as he is like the leader of his own label now.
Oh
He's
yeah.
looking at empire building, and I'm wondering what he's going to do with it. I would love for him to
Right.
explore that kind of fight within himself because I don't know. The way he writes and everything about other topics is so great, but like even on TPAB, it's fantastic. But there are
Mhm.
certain things where it's like I don't know if you can handle a situation where you have these Jay-Z type things where you're like supporting the NFL and like helping
Right.
do that, but you're like that's going to be the interesting part for me. I think with this tour as well, partnering with Cash App, the tickets are insanely priced.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know if they need to be. I think this is we can tie this into the Spotify issue too, where it's like you don't need to be charging this month much. You are Kendrick Lamar.
Right.
You don't need that much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially on your own label now. Like there's less costs that go around at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't need that much. And I get co-headlining with SZA is probably another thing because like these are two of the biggest artists in the world.
Oh yeah.
Um, but especially nowadays where people can't even like buy bare necessities, like I can't justify spending $350 for 2 tickets to a concert
I
when I could
mean,
go to 6 smaller shows
yeah,
for that
yeah,
price.
yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. When it comes to like the Jay-Z stuff, I don't know a whole lot, but to me, like it just seems like Jay-Z, he established himself as like a pretty G dang good rapper, and then
Yep.
he like completely abandoned music and
Hmm.
just focused on business
Yep.
and did like title and stuff like that. But what would be interesting is if he kind of follows in Dre's footsteps, where
Mm.
he did start his own label, found a lot of really young, interesting talent, signed them to that, and then he
Hmm.
continued to produce records under his label. I mean, he stopped later, but I don't know. I think Kendrick's different though because it's established in this album, especially on Gloria, that his writing, his ability to have that creative expression is really important to him.
Yep.
So I don't think that he's just going to abandon that all just to be the black exec, as he says on Heart Part 6.
Right.
Um, there's going to be a balance. I don't really see him being the Jay-Z guy because he just doesn't seem like that type of person to like chase the like huge bag and all the fame. Like that's something
Hmm.
he's kind of always said that like he's not about. He just wants to be kind of secluded and come out every once in a while. I don't know.
That's why it's interesting because it's like it feels like he's leaning towards that direction. Like not stopping music at all, but it feels like he wants to be in that kind of bag.
Yeah.
And it's interesting considering like if you look at Jay-Z's catalog and Kendrick's catalog, Jay-Z never hid that fact. Like
Oh yeah.
he started as a drug dealer making rap music and he was never shy about like I want to build and build and build and build and
Hmm.
hustle. Kendrick was never really about that. So
No.
I think on this album there was a vibe switch of it felt more material, more egoistic, more self-centered. And I don't think there's
For
an
sure.
issue with that because he set up this whole Gemini thing, which I think is fair because Mr. Morale is insane
Yes.
um, compared to this thing, and I think they contrast each other perfectly. He's a walking hypocrite, and that's not like an insult. Like that's just
No.
how he is.
Yeah.
And finding those little complexities in it is like part of this thing I really enjoy about him.
Hmm.
And it's not even a big criticism. It's more just like, how is this going to play out? I'm really interested to
Right.
see how these certain things go if he does tend to go on a route like that.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think we're only having this conversation because this album is vastly different than all of his other
Yes.
ones. But when we're talking about like him wanting to chase the money and build this big business, he didn't do the big business thing. He dropped on like a Tuesday in the middle of the
Mhm.
day. There was no long album rollout. This isn't a Bruno Mars thing. If he wanted the cash and wanted to really build hype and like, get that more money, more business, then you do the Bruno Mars thing and everybody hates you.
Exactly.
But like this, even though it's very fun, it's very West Coast and it's just kind of a chill, fun record. Like, oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. I'm just so stupid. Uh, Whatever. It's a fun record, but there's like a conceptual element to it. And there was like that
Mhm.
little teaser that led into it. It's like it doesn't feel commercial, even though it
No,
is a fun kind of commercial record. Where it's like you're gonna be hearing TV off and Luther like everywhere you go for like a couple months here.
exactly.
Which is weird because it's winter and TV off is
Yeah,
not a winter song.
neither is Luther.
No, neither is Luther. This is a very summer record
It really
that
is.
just so happened to have dropped in November.
Yeah. But
Um,
I think a lot of part of that, like, too, is like that helped him in the Drake battle so much. Is he Drake beat Drake at his own game
mhm.
when not like succumbing to those kind of business antics where like you need to drop at this time to get the most streams possible.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's another big part of it too. It's like there is no way that man can climb back at all when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I think that this record just solidifies it, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
really funny just like continue to watch him just like we didn't even talk about the two lawsuits that Drake is doing against
Oh,
UMG because that happened like a week and a half ago, and it feels
yeah.
so disconnected now. That's insane.
That's so lame.
It's so weird how like you would think he would want to be quiet after like a thing like this, but Drake has been loud, and every single thing he's done has been weird and bad.
Keeps
Like
getting
J. Cole's
worse.
at least like, here's some unreleased J. Cole and Kendrick collabs, or here's a 10-year anniversary of 2014 Forest Hills Drives, the thing you all love from me.
Yeah.
Like that feels a little bit better. Um, but I mean,
Drake.
Grippy still exists, but we can get
Well, yeah, but like I don't know. Drake should have just done like, hey, here's some like unreleased cuts from Take Care.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
he did that 100 GB thing where he just released an entire
Oh,
100 GB hard drive. People couldn't find anything good on that. That was just kind of like a dud.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. People forgot about
Yeah.
it.
Uh,
But yeah, that was just a conversation of like the state of what this album is kind of creating, and it's fantastic. I love it.
absolutely. No,
So
I think
I
it's
think we're at an
great.
interesting point in hip hop again. I feel like there's another turning point happening, and I feel like Kendrick is more in the spotlight than he's ever been currently. So it's interesting to see what he'll do with it. And I think I'm hoping he influences a lot of people that kind of move in similar ways.
Mhm.
Um, it seems like he's trying to go on this purge of like people in this just for the money and
Oh yeah.
like the attention and the academics of the world and all the media that doesn't really care about these artists. They're just looking for clicks. So
Mhm.
we'll see how he actually goes about that. I think the next album, whatever it might touch on that, or we
Um,
might get the typical Gemini thing where he turns very inward and conceptual. So
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think that's what's interesting. That's what makes him an interesting artist. We're
hmm
not going to be getting, back to back
you
to
never know what you're gonna get.
Midnights to Tortured Poets Department. We're not going to get the same thing over and
hmm
over and over again. Every album is different, and that's what makes him an interesting artist to just follow, you know?
Exactly.
I don't know.
And to talk about
And to talk
and
about, yeah.
so
I just revisited like his whole catalog, and I forgot how good everything
hmm
he's ever dropped has been. It's kind of crazy.
it is. People forget sometimes. It's just like a thing out there, and not all of them are super like re-listenable all the time. But like you take a
Yeah,
little bit of a break, you go back, and you're like, whoa, it's still just as good.
right. That was like I just re-listened to T-Pab, and
hmm
like the whole time I was listening to it, I was like, how did anyone say this was sleepy? Like 4
Yeah.
months ago, that was a thing.
hmm
How could anyone say that and then sleep at night? That album is phenomenal. One of the best. Ah,
yeah.
I don't get it.
Incredible. But I think that's all I had to discuss.
That's all I have to
We'll
say
have
about that.
Father John Misty out on the channel this
Yeah.
week. Um,
Father John Misty album's good too.
it is. It's very good.
Again, Father John Misty has been overshadowed.
He has, but I mean, the albums are very comparable in terms of quality, I would say. So,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, we probably won't spend as much time on Father John Misty, but
mhm.
Mahash Mashana is like really good. And I don't say this lightly, I think it might be his best.
I think it's by far his best.
Okay, okay. I didn't want to be too
I can do
controversial.
that because
You can do that because you don't like him very much.
exactly.
But I'm a big fan of his, and I think this might be his best. It's it's either that or it's tied with "I Love You, Honey Bear."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I have this like very soft, nostalgic view of "I Love You, Honey Bear." There's a lot of tracks that I have like very emotional connections to. Obviously, the one where he says he hates his wife, that's probably the one that hits closest to home.
Hell yeah.
But I think Mahash Mashana, it's really, really grown on me. Even the
Hmm.
songs that I wasn't too crazy on, grown on me a lot. And
Mental health is crazy.
mental health,
I can't get over that song.
I think that might be his best song. I
Crazy.
I don't I don't know. I might have to re-listen. I honestly I did re-listen to Pure Comedy like a couple days before we did that. And
Hmm.
Magic Mountain is phenomenal. I before Mahash Mashana, I think Magic Mountain might have been his best song. But I don't know. Mental health is really, really growing on me. Even the disco song, I guess Time Just Makes Fools of Us All is
It's
like
pretty baller.
that one's fun. I
Hmm.
I listened to it once and I was like, that was okay. But now in the context of the record, it's great. So thank you, John. You made a good
Thank you
record.
very much. I find it very strange that Fantano gave like Pure Comedy a 9 and he gave this one a 7. Because I
Oh,
think the
that's
writing is
criminal.
infinitely better on this album.
Oh yeah. I can't believe he gave Pure Comedy a 9.
I can't either.
Did he listen to two wildly different perspectives?
I I did not watch the review for Pure Comedy.
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I think that record is very overrated, but like it still sounds really pretty, so I can't hate on it. But
It's yeah. I don't think
it's
it's
for a
his
very
best.
specific type of person, and I'm not that type of person.
I think it was the right album at the right time.
Yes,
And
I think we've grown a lot as a society since
yes,
2017 and the turmoil we've had in 2017.
absolutely. I definitely think in the wake of the first Trump win,
Hmm.
we were a couple of months into the Trump mayhem that was going on,
Hmm.
and will continue to go on. But it like that felt like very cathartic. I'm sure that was like a big part of
Yeah,
Fantano's thing. That was probably a big part of why
I'm sure it
people
was.
like this album so
I
much.
think there was a countrywide like the American. I'm gonna say American ignorance pre 2016 when like Obama was in office and nobody cared about politics.
Sure.
I think that veil getting lifted off. A lot of it seems kind of childish when you go back and listen to a lot of 2017 records that talk about that because there's not
Yeah.
even really a lot of analysis in it. It's just Donald Trump is in office. Oh
That,
no,
that-
which is horrible, but it's like all of the terrible things that this country does. Like not a lot of people talked about it. There's definitely a lot of political like artists that were doing that, but like
sure.
it wasn't like every single person touching on it. It just seemed like a very like this is the first thing ever where they're like, wait a minute, this country's not great.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was
Yeah.
like
Now we're in 2024 and everything's like everything's awful. So you're getting like a lot of brilliant music that touches on a lot of awful things, like with
yeah,
great nuanced takes, like Mahash Mashana.
absolutely. Yeah, I think man, it's kind of crazy. Like everyone was forced to like get into politics in
Yes.
2017. And I think Pure Comedy is like a pretty good starting point. And I'm sure a lot of hipsters probably started there. Because
Yeah.
that was the only those were the only people paying attention to Father John Misty in
And when it came to
2017.
2017 political records, that probably is one of the better ones.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of tracks on Pure
Yeah.
Comedy that are great.
Hmm.
But two wildly different perspectives really drags it down.
It really does. It
It
like ruined like I took off like 5 points for that because I'm like it just soured a lot of the tracks around it.
honestly, it would probably take off more points for me if
Yeah.
I rated it that way. It really I don't skip songs in albums really.
Hmm.
Like it's really rare that I'm sitting like listening to an album and I skip something. I always skip that song. And I have like
Yeah.
ever since I've been like listening to that album. It's it's really really bad. And I like you, John. I'm just gonna keep calling him
Joshua.
John, even though that's not his name. John.
That's the risk you run when you have John as your alias, but Josh is your name.
I mean, can't you go by John if you're well actually no. John and Jonathan are names. You wouldn't go by
Joshua.
John if your name is Joshua.
No, I mean, yeah.
It's not
It'd be
like a
funny if you did,
it's
but
not like a Richard Dick thing where it's like
yeah,
those names are vastly different, but you can still kind of get away with it. But actually, nobody's
yeah.
going by Dick these days.
No,
It's not 1947.
not yeah. Yeah, but
Anyways,
that's all I have. I thought it was a different music segment today, but I thought it was interesting as I'm trying to dig through this list. Instead
yeah,
of talking about actual music, we can talk about things surrounding music,
absolutely. A state of the music industry, as it were.
if you will.
And I will. I did listen to something, and I do kind of want to bring it up because I brought it up
Okay.
last week, or last time, saying that it was going to come out, and then it did come out. It came out the same day as Mahashmashana and GNX, and that is Flush, the EP by C Rose. Um, it's okay. It's not as good as The End of the World, but it's pretty good. I'm not going to add it to the short albums list. So I guess I could talk about it in depth if I want to. But I haven't really spent a lot of time with it. I was really I don't know why I said it in past tense. I am really, really into End of the World. I probably listen to that like on repeat 3 times a day. It is phenomenal. Like probably 4 out of the 6 tracks are like I don't know top 100 songs for me now. I don't really say that lightly. Like they are really really phenomenal. I think that's C Rose at the top of his game. Um, Flush is not as good. I think there's a couple of good songs on there, but nothing as good as End of the World or nothing as good as Guard Dog, which we will be reacting to soon.
Eventually,
Next.
yes.
I don't know. Martingale, the first track, is pretty good. And I think Toothache is interesting because it's like a folksy, rootsy hoedown kind of song, which is very, very different from everything that he's done, I guess, before, which is just slow guitar songs that are produced on GarageBand. Um, so I don't know. It's very different, but that isn't like the reason I don't like it. It just doesn't seem to like it doesn't hit the same. The lyrics aren't like as like intimate, which I don't know. I feel like I might know too much about this guy because of like the things that he's written down. So maybe it's a good change of pace, but it just feels like that character, his identity is kind of missing from these songs. So they seem to be kind of more general. And it's fine. It's fine. It's not bad. It's still worth a listen, but it wouldn't be the thing I start with. If you're wanting to get into C Rose, I would definitely. I don't know if I would start with Guard Dog. That's what we're gonna do. I think start with End of the
That's how
World.
I'm starting.
That's how we're starting, and I guess we're going in chronological order because I think he just like dropped that album out of nowhere, if I remember right. So we're starting off where everyone else did, but I do think that End of the World is probably his best project. So check that out and then go to Guard Dog. There's a lot of good stuff on there, but like I I don't know. It's very consistent. I'll just say that. I don't want to go too much into it because we're gonna listen to it soon. So
Real.
yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. It's all right. But that's all I have to say. That's all I listened to. That was new this week. That new.
Me too.
You didn't listen to it.
I didn't listen to it.
Not yet.
Not yet. I gotta do the other ones first.
Yeah, absolutely. I am honestly terrified to show you C Rose because he is slowly becoming one of my favorite artists that is making music, and I am terrified that you're going to listen to it and say that it is derivative and that you hate it. And I've never really gotten like that before. It's like I've shown you Father John Misty, and I'm like 90% sure that you're gonna hate it every single time we listen to one
Uh-huh.
of his records, and I don't care. But for some reason, this one's I'm like, I really want this to hit. And
Yeah.
I'm worried that it
If
won't.
you relate to a thing emotionally, it takes a different weight. And I feel like
That's true.
as a listener in the past year or two, like my emotional maturity has like doubled since. So I feel like
Sure.
I've gone a lot away from like the more technical, like flashy stuff that I used to be
Mm,
into more like well written, thoughtfully produced, like stuff that just makes me feel things is what I enjoy. So I
okay.
don't really care about a lot of that other stuff. It's just stuff to talk about in a video.
Okay. Fair enough. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that Guard Dog is just one of those albums that I hold very, very dear. There's a
Yeah,
lot
exactly.
of there's a lot of talk of like suicide and mental health stuff, and I was listening to it while
Hmm.
going through that. So
Yep.
it's one that I have these like really intense emotional connections to, especially like songs like Roadkill and Villain, which we'll get to. I don't know how I'm going to react to those songs. Um, I don't know what I'm going to say when we listen to those,
Yeah.
but we'll get
This
there.
is why this video is taking so long. So you have like two albums from him to do. I have like 23
Yeah,
Malieri
that's
albums
true.
to do. And all of those were happening in a period of my life with the highest highs and the lowest lows, mostly the
Mm.
lowest lows. So now I need to go back and write about every single one of them in a way that doesn't feel self-centered, but also doesn't negate my personal experience with them.
No, I mean like that's how you gotta do it though.
Yeah. So it's gonna be that's why it's like taking so long. It's like this is so hard. And I have to like kind of pull myself back into a pit to like really get
Mm,
the things out that I want to sometimes.
sure.
And that's not fun.
No, but that's important. Like that's the whole
It is.
reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's why it's gonna take a while, and I don't care that it's gonna take a while.
that's fine. That's fine. If it doesn't come out before the end of the year, that's fine.
It won't at this
But
point.
yeah, that's okay.
This the end of year videos are gonna take up enough of my headspace.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I should probably make a list.
Yeah.
I mean, we're recording that in like a couple weeks, but
Bab Jab's gonna be the big one. I have no idea what he's listened to this year.
Blade probably. I don't know why I always think that Bab Jab's a drainer. I don't think he is.
It just seems like a thing he would do.
It seems like it's his space, but also I this might be sacrilegious. I don't think he has that enough whimsy for Blade.
Ooh.
He's a whimsical
Yeah,
guy.
I don't think he is either. Well, he's a whimsical guy, but he also listens to like the saddest music you'll ever hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very like interesting cuz
Yeah.
like he was like when we did that Adrian Lenker album, he was like
Yes.
really invested in that. And that
Yeah.
was kind of a curveball. I didn't think that he was into Big Thief Adrian Lenker like that.
Oh yeah, he's super into it. He's the one that got me into it, like
Oh, okay.
to begin with. So
Okay, then that makes sense. I didn't know that. I just figured, oh, he likes the underscores stuff, like
mhm.
that kind of like Gen Z internet, like at 100 gex, like that
Right.
kind of scene. So I always picture like, oh, that's not such a huge leap to assume that he'd be also into Blade, but
Mhm.
that feels like it might be like two steps too far now. Now that I'm
Yeah.
processing it out loud. So if Bab Jab, if you're watching or listening to this, which
She's
why?
not.
Sorry for thinking that you're a drainer.
Get on the podcast if you're doing that.
Yeah, if you are listening to Blade, come on to podcast, and I would love to talk to you about it because I don't know where to start. and I want to be a drainer bad.
Suggestions.
I just want to
I
be
don't
part
know.
of the
I think
community.
you'll have Magdalena Bay like at number one, and then you'll have like something like wildly different, like soundtrack ambient as number two
That would make
that like
sense.
we've never heard of. Because he always pulls a couple of those out.
That's true. That's true. Which
For
I
me,
don't
it's
know.
expected at this point. So
It's expected to be surprised.
yes,
I don't know. It is weird because like we're both pretty into music. You so more
yeah,
than me, and like we're both like tapped in to like what's coming out.
hmm
So it is kind of shocking when like he's like, yeah, I listened to this album and it has like 30,000 streams across all the
hmm
songs combined. It's like, where do you even find this? How? I don't
great
understand.
digging.
Yeah, I mean he's doing the Lord's work,
It's
so
true.
that's how
He's
you
put
got
me
to do
on
it.
game. I put him on game. It's a mutual thing.
Absolutely. And I sometimes uh, recommend good albums, but most of
It's
the
true.
times they're okay.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's where I'm at. But if you don't like Guard Dog, I'm gonna kill myself.
Oh, I
Anyways,
love sad music, so I think it'll be fine.
I think so too. I was doing a
I'll be
bit.
completely okay mentally, and I'll just like throw on the most depressing thing ever just to like get myself in a mood sometimes.
That's true. I do that too. I was just casually delivering packages today,
Yeah,
listening to
exactly.
Carrie and Lowell.
I know. Well, it's like I was just like playing Call of Duty, and I'm like, I haven't listened to Crow in a while. I should do that so I have a refresher. That was a really bad idea.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. I'm like, okay, I have to be desensitized to it at this point.
No,
I'm not.
there's no way. That that is the one album that I think I'll never listen to again, which
Yeah.
is shocking. Like I almost exclusively listen to sad stuff, and
hmm
that album is too much
It's
for
a
me.
bridge too far.
I can't believe that you listen to that on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah, I've a handful of times.
That's crazy.
One song in particular, a ton, but I'll talk about that at length.
Oh, a little sneak peek to what's
Yeah.
to come. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, wait, did you see the like Tranza album that came out?
Uh, no.
This is okay. So I have not listened to it, but I saw that it came out and I think that it's a really interesting project. So it's the album is called Tranza by Red Hot Org. It's basically I don't know if it's a compilation album. I think it's just an album compiled of a bunch of artists that kind of contributed one song. And
Oh,
it,
this thing. Yes,
yes,
yes, yes, yes, yes.
so I think it came out and like all of the proceeds are going to like some charity that's supposed to be helping trans folks.
Yeah, because like
Um,
Andre 3000 and stuff is on this thing.
yeah. Yeah, it has like a lot of good people, like Faye
Fleet
Webster,
Foxes,
Fleet Foxes.
Adrian.
Yeah. Like a bunch of like big name people. And so like I need to listen to it because it has a lot of really great things. And like when I saw the Andre song, I'm like, oh, so this is just like an offcut from his album. I don't think so. I think it's just like he's using the same naming conventions that he did on his album.
Yeah,
But I love the title of his song.
it is. It's phenomenal.
Something is happening and I may not fully understand, but I'm happy to stand for the understanding.
The most Andre sentence you can ever.
It's just so beautiful. Like I don't know. Like I don't want to over like state how much I love that, but it really is just like I don't get it, but I'm going to contribute this 26-minute song to a project that's going to be helping something that I don't completely understand just because they're people. I'm like, that is just lovely. What a nice
Why
guy.
Andre is the best rapper of all time, even when he's doing a 26-minute flute song, and the only words you get from him are a title.
Yeah. I mean, man, I have like so much respect for Andre 3000. And I have not listened to an Outcast record
He is
in
mind blowing.
six years, maybe.
He's like one of the only rappers, like besides Billy Woods, where like I feel like I can like see the Matrix when I listen to his stuff and actually understand it.
Yeah.
There is something about it that just like taps into like the most primal part of your brain.
Absolutely,
But
man. Yeah,
it'd be interesting if we could do this record in like parts or something.
yeah.
'Cause it's
That's
4 hours
it's
long, but
four
like I'm seeing
hours.
More Mother and Adrian Lenker
Yeah,
and like Fleet Foxes and all of these people.
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting collection.
Jeff Tweedy,
Yeah, there's like a lot of. It kind of goes from like yeah, like people that I recognize to people I've never heard of. But I'm like,
Hunter Schafer.
I wonder if it's
Make
like
music?
I'm. I guess I don't know. Julian Baker's on it.
Yeah,
Um,
Claro.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of indie artists that kind of well, and Andre 3000, I guess.
He's an indie
Is
artist at this
he?
point.
Is he?
He's making weirdo jazz
I
stuff.
guess. I guess. I don't. I can't. I don't know. I don't know
You
if I
can't pin
can.
him down.
Yeah, I can't call the guy who made Hey Ya an indie artist.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And, that is his best song.
No.
That's all I have to say about music. I just wanted to shout out that
Just
project.
leaving that bombshell at the end.
I just wanted to drop some facts on you guys right before we
You
leave.
listen to B.O.B. and tell me Hey Ya is better.
I was joking. His
Oh, I know.
best song is Solo Reprise.
That is pretty good.
Okay, that's a good pick. Is that his song? Can we call it that?
It's his song.
Okay.
I
I
would count it as an Andre
it's
song.
it's my favorite Andre song.
Okay.
It's my favorite Andre verse that I've listened to.
It is pretty dang good.
It's pretty G dang good. So yeah, so listen to Tranza if you've got 4 hours on your hands. I just wanted to shout it out because I got like the songs recommended to me, and it was like, oh, Fleet Foxes was a feature on this, and I was like, oh, Claro's a feature on this. I need to see what's going on here.
Yeah, I kept getting new releases, but I could never find the actual album.
Right, because when you click on it, when you click on the singles, it just takes you
Mhm.
to the single. Because I guess
Yeah.
every track is listed as a single on that artist's page, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to find the album that it's on. So I don't know. I haven't listened to any of them, which means that it would be really great content for our channel that nobody would watch because I don't know how many people know about this.
It'd be fun though. Like, we'd have to break it into like 5 listening sessions probably. But
Yeah, probably. Would be fun though.
it would be.
Interesting at least.
If we did like live streams, that'd be fun to just like nail that out in a live stream, but
That's
just
true.
kind of like chill. But
Yeah, I mean, it would be kind of hard to cut it up because
it
like
would be, yeah.
each disc, I guess, is I don't know. It's not really consistent because the Andre disc is like
Yeah.
50 minutes or whatever. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but support trans people. I just spent a long time saying that C Rose is one of the best, and he's a trans man. So I guess you could say that I'm an ally. That's what I'm.
Right.
And I'm not performative, right?
We never change our flag on our wheel.
That's right. That's
Been
true.
there for 2 years.
It's not even the right logo.
Exactly. We're committed.
Maybe I should add it to the new logo and then add that to the wheel. But
Nah,
yeah, I guess the
Don't touch
retro logo is fine.
it's a little Easter egg.
Yeah. It's like Coca-Cola never changed their logo.
Yeah.
They've never
We
changed their
did,
logo.
but like we won't change it there.
Yeah. It's called a classic. You don't change classics.
Real.
Right? Jaguar. Are people still
Don't get me
talking about
started. Don't get me started.
that? Copy no one. That's what our that's
Most
what
generic looking tech brand.
that's what our YouTube channel description should be.
I'll just put copy no one every single time. That'd be kind of funny.
It's kind of our whole thing.
Just make it our slogan. We'll just copy Jaguar. That's
Well,
really funny.
It is better than our current slogan, which is "We stand Brett Favre" or something.
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning.
Yes. which is a joke from like 2019, which is crazy.
That's true, and it's still our channel bio.
Yeah.
It does a great job describing what we do.
Every day I'm like, I love our YouTube channel, and I wonder why not enough people watch it. And then I just look at our channel page. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah,
not
the
accessible to anybody.
the channel trailer is iCarly,
Yeah, which is
and
brilliant. But
it's great, but it doesn't really do a good job describing.
yeah,
Paul's in it.
it's true.
Well, kind of.
And it kind of.
Paul's never been
I've
on
seen
our
it more
main
than
channel.
Paul.
Yeah, Babjab's, yeah, that's true. Paul just has a picture, but it's just like if you were to watch
Yeah.
that video, it was made at a time where Paul was on the podcast, so it made sense for him to be in
A
that
long
video.
time ago.
A long time ago. So, yeah, it's an old video, and then we stand Eli Manning. I think the podcast, like the channel description for our podcast, is like we stand Peyton Manning or something. So there is some sort of brand consistency. Kind of. I don't know.
Whatever.
It's fine.
We just make videos. I don't care.
Yeah,
This isn't a job. I do this for fun.
I do it for
And it keeps me on a schedule, so it keeps my mental health pretty balanced.
There you go. Let me just what is our channel description? Oh yeah. Oh. Well, we kind of have a real description. The description is we are the official podcast channel of the Boytime Boys. Link to our Boytime channel. Listen to us talk about fun pop culture things or watch a film or two. We stand Peyton Manning.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So it's just kind of tacked on the end.
That's better than the main channel.
Is the main channel just We Stand Eli Manning?
It probably is because that channel went through like 4 different phases.
We should probably change that.
Yeah,
Oh.
maybe next year if I have some downtime, we can.
It just says the official
that up.
Boytime channel, We Stand Eli Manning. Listen to our podcast. Then I'll link to the podcast.
Great.
I mean, it works.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could tell you a single thing about Eli Manning or Peyton Manning for that matter, except that
Okay.
Peyton Manning was a spokesman for Papa John's.
That's true.
And he has a big forehead.
Yeah. Very big forehead.
And
We have 500,000 total views. That's crazy.
and did he send a picture of his penis to a sports reporter?
I don't think he did.
Oh, no, that was Brett Favre.
Yeah, Brett Favre's not great.
Brett
so I'm glad we
Favre-
stand Eli Manning and not Brett Favre.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't support Brett Favre. He was wearing Crocs in that picture, and I don't know if people talk about that.
Yeah. He also stole like $2 million from a charity fund.
He did do that. Yeah. Funny guy, Brett Favre.
The Crocs are worse.
And yeah, I think so. Isn't he also like, wasn't he a COVID denier and stuff like that?
Yeah, he got hit in the head a lot as a football
Well,
player.
that's true.
So
That's true. Maybe.
kind of just par
Yeah.
for the course.
we
Same
probably-
thing happened to Aaron Rodgers too. We never thought it would happen to him, and then it did. So.
Didn't he get killed in prison? Or no?
Oh no, that's Aaron.
That's
Hernandez.
Aaron.
That's a different one.
That's a different Aaron. Sorry.
Aaron Rodgers was a successor to Brett Favre, and then he also
Oh.
got CTE, and then did ayahuasca in a hut in Oregon, and then started doing Joe Rogan COVID denial stuff.
Oh. Isn't that interesting? Why? I don't know why. I was about to ask, why is it that football players are always crazy?
A very simple answer.
Yeah, it's a very simple answer. It's head trauma.
Yes.
It's the reason why OJ murdered 1,700 people.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I think it's funny that OJ got acquitted. You know,
Died.
didn't face any. Well, he did die, which is kind of funny. But he like was so cocky. He was like, "I'm never gonna get caught. I'm gonna release a book that says how I did it." and he didn't get caught. It's true. I guess he was correct. He never went to jail for that. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, he got the last laugh, kind of.
Well, I mean, the family outlived him. My favorite
It's
thing.
true, but you know.
My favorite thing about the book is that I think the family of the victims, they have some sort of like ownership of like the distribution, and they can control how the cover is formatted.
Mm.
And so the book is titled How I Did Not Do It, or something like that, something along that effect. And the family has over time made the knot really, really small over the course of like however
Mm.
many editions that it's been.
That's
I think
crazy.
it's just I did not do it or something. And then like so now when you buy the book, the knot is like really, really small. So it just says I did it by OJ Simpson. I think it's a clever little revenge, I guess. I guess that's the only way that you can get revenge against OJ Simpson
Change a book.
because he's dead. Or
Yep.
or you could beat his golf score. Get a lower handicap than OJ Simpson, which I have to imagine was 13, which was his football number, right?
I have no idea.
No. You're supposed to be the football guy.
I was not
Johnny
born in the 90s.
Football.
I was not around.
That's what they called you. All about the
Johnny
stats.
Football.
Johnny Football. You know everything about those freaks. Anyways, this has been a really long podcast.
Yes.
Which I think is funny because I said before we
Yeah,
recorded
not a
this, we didn't have a lot to talk about. So
Always happens.
it does. We don't usually say that because we don't want it to be that long, but here we are. And we're still recording, which is funny, quirky, and irreverent. Bye.